All right. Welcome back, everyone. Right. So, hope you guys can hear me and then able to see my screen. Can somebody confirm? Can you guys hear me? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. Thanks for confirmation. All right. So, let's quickly recap what we discussed in a minute and then we'll get started with the further topics around the database architecture, what we started yesterday. Right. So yesterday we started with the introduction about your instructors, that is about me and my overall experience and what are my areas of expertise and what are the major activities and what are the major activities what I performed in my career and what are my primary skills and secondary skills and then all about me, all about your instructor. So this is me, like I'm the one who will be delivering this entire course end to end and there's no other third party person coming and delivering this course. That we just spoke about me in yesterday's session, and followed by we discussed about a course curriculum. So again, so I'm repeating, this particular course is formed based upon my experience as a DBA. If you are working for any client or supporting any client, what you are supposed to work in day in and day out as a Oracle DBA, what are the regular tasks you are supporting for any client or customer, all based upon my the 15 years of 16 years of experience I put together and formed this particular course. And this course is contains everything from the beginner till advanced level as a DBA, what you are going to do in the client environment. All will be structured together and then form this particular course. And on top of that, there are some other extra classes will be conducted at the end of the course, like resume writing, cover letter, interview preparations, and mock interview. These are like some extra topics which is included because the everyone intention or the outcome of this particular course is to learn and then get a new job opportunities after completion of this course. And after completion of this course, everyone has to be able to clear that Oracle certifications. That's the motto behind that. So keeping that in mind, this entire particular course will be formed, and this is based upon the real-time experience as a DBA, what you're gonna support for any client. So all those activities will be covered here in a live demonstration. Right, that's a quick intro what we saw in our yesterday session. And there's other link what I shared in the yesterday session where if you are unable to join this particular batch, then what will be the next batch? So you can follow this particular link here. So they're going to tell us or they're going to tell you when the next batch is scheduled. So this is the current upcoming batch. That is the this is a batch what we're going to start it now, and we'll be starting the rack batch next week. So probably we have these demo sessions for the rack batch as well. So you can try to attend those rack demo sessions, and we'll be starting this new course starting from April 1st or April 3rd, I believe, April 3rd onwards after this demo session, right? So that is upcoming batch details will be provided over here. You can keep watching this upcoming batch so that you'll be notified in advance. Great. And then we talked about a course timing, course fees, course duration. So it'll be Monday to Wednesday in IST, Sundays to Tuesday in EST time zone. So 8:30 a.m. IST to 10:30 a.m. IST in India time zone. It'll be 11 p.m. EST to 1 a.m. EST in EST time zone. And the course will be for approximately 2 months, but within a 35 days or max 40 days of these actual working sessions, Monday to Wednesday. So we should be able to complete the course. And since this is a paid training, the course fees is 10,000 Indian rupees or 125 US dollar. So after yesterday's demonstration, so we got couple of registration. Probably I have to grant the Google Drive access to all those registered students. So probably I'll start it out by today after the sessions. So whoever did the registration and not yet received the Google Drive link, please stand by till today. I'll be granting access to everyone. Right, so that's a course timing, course durations, and the course fee structure. And it will be based upon 19C Oracle version. Will be conducted over a Zoom session. So we'll be sharing the Zoom link to that registered students probably by today end of the day, and we'll be granting the access on the Google Drive to all those registered students by today end of the day, so that from Monday onwards we'll start the actual regular classes. And who are registered already a week or 2, 3, 4 days back, they already got a Google Drive access. And similarly, the the students who are registered from last 1 or 2 days probably will be getting access by max end of the day. So this Google Drive link will be accessible for lifetime. No restriction or no concern about that. So those will be available for our lifetime access. And even these are not having any restriction. Even you can download it locally on your laptop. So no objection or restriction on that. You can go ahead and download it, all the recordings, all the notebooks, all the course materials, all the previous batch recording, current batch recording into your local laptop or desktop. That's also possible. And again, the communications, primary mode of communication is via WhatsApp group. So I have added all the registered student into WhatsApp group. Again, who joined little late or yesterday. I'm about to yet to add all those guys into the WhatsApp group. Please stand by again till end of the day. Everyone will be added to WhatsApp group. So we'll use that WhatsApp group for primary mode of communication. Why? Because uh, rather than discussing one to one, so use WhatsApp group as a primary mode of communication so that it will be benefited to everyone. So you can ask any questions, queries, or any help, or if you're stuck with any lab exercise, and you can make use of our WhatsApp group. You can just take a screenshot, post your questions over there, or anything apart from this particular course, like you attended some interview and you're unable to answer few questions, please do post those questions in the WhatsApp group so that it will be benefited to everyone. And the moment anyone stuck and they're unable to set up their lab and they can post it in the WhatsApp group, so the same issue might have already faced by the other students. So you also can respond back to those questions and you know help them each other and then learn each other. So that's the idea behind that. And also, if you're working as a DBA and then you need some assistance and you need some help on a particular task, and you can go and then post your questions over there. That also works. So you can use this WhatsApp group for primary mode of communication for each and every question. And again, I'm repeatedly telling everyone, it doesn't matter whether the whatever the question you're asking, whether it's a simple question, silly questions, whether it's a complex questions, you first ask the question. If you don't ask the question, you'll never learn. So first we need to open up our mind and open up our mouth and start asking questions. So once you start asking questions, then you should be able to learn. And if you hesitate that if I ask this question, if it's a silly questions and what will other think, then you'll never learn. So I'm there to help. I'm there to answer, whether it is simple questions or complex questions. If I know the answer, I can answer you immediately. If I don't know, probably I'll sit back, I'll study, and I'll make sure that you will be answered. Right. So make use of that WhatsApp group. Again, this is also lifetime access, provided everyone are active and keep interacting and keep asking questions and make it active group so that I can keep it. And if nobody is interested, then and I'll wait for 3, 4 months and then I will go and then delete that group. So again, it is subjected to everyone interest, how much is active and overall interested. then they can continue to be stay in this WhatsApp group. But again, as I say, it's a permanent group. Right, again, the payment mode, I already I already given instruction to that all the students who are registered. So again, even we have few more seats available. So who are interested, make sure that you can reach out to me on my WhatsApp number or my cell number, and then I'm pinging in the chat here. Take a note of this WhatsApp number or the cell number. You can give me a call or you can ping me in my WhatsApp. So I'll be guiding you for the payment process or any questions or queries on the payment, or you want to talk to me personally before registering. You can make sure that use these numbers. I'll be available on this via WhatsApp or cell number. I can assist you further on that. Right. So that's a payment method, course durations, course timing, WhatsApp group, Google access, what we discussed yesterday, and just a brief intro about that again. And other important things, what we discussed is the prerequisites. Again, very, very important. So because we're not here to just to time pass, right? We are here to learn, enhance our skills, and help each other grow in our career. And after completion of this course, I want everyone to be proudly say that this course helped me. Because of this course, I'm able to get the new job opportunities. Because of this course, I have enhanced my knowledge. I am much confident on this DBA field. And it's just not like you're paying one time and you're purchasing this course and I'm studying or not, it doesn't matter for you. That's not the mindset I want. I want everyone mindset here is learn each other, enhance your skill sets, and make use of whatever this course you're learning. It'll be benefited to you. And with this particular course, you should be able to survive and you should be able to support independently to any client if you're already working. If you're not working and you're new to this IT or you are trying to change your domain, and this course is helped, and because of this course, I am able to get the new job. I'm able to get my the career got changed, and because of this course I was able to crack the interview, and because of this course I'm able to clear the Oracle certification. That mindset I wanted. So why? Because I am here to help you. Like whatever knowledge I have it, I'm ready to give it. But it's only matter of how much you are interested, how much time you are dedicating to learn this particular course. It's all on your hand. So once you are interested and you are willing to invest your time, you are willing to learn the things, and you can ask any kind of questions. Even it's a silly questions, doesn't matter. You can go ahead and then ask the questions. So for that, some of the basic prerequisites. One important thing is this hardware requirement, because whatever I'm teaching, 100% you will be able to grasp it. 100% you're able to understand the concept when I'm teaching and when I'm explaining it. When I'm showing the demo, for sure you'll be able to catch up the things. But within a week or so you will be able to forget that particular concept, because if you don't do hands on, you'll be easily forget that particular concept. So only way to remember those concepts forever is to make your hand dirty, make lab hands-on exercise. So for that, you should be able to set up your lab in your laptop or desktop. For that, you should have 10 GB minimum, 10 GB RAM and 100 GB SSD hard disk. So this is very, very mandatory thing. And if you don't have this 10 GB RAM and if you don't have this 100 GB SSD hard disk, you will not be able to set up the lab. So make sure that you have a valid hardware and required lab resource. For that, you should have a laptop or the desktop, whatever you're using, and that should meet this minimum requirement. That's a must thing. And again, if you are taking a risk that, I'm okay, sir, I don't have this hardware, but I'm still continue with this course, and that's on you. Like, as I told, without hands-on, and then you can forget the things easily, and you will be end up with watching the recordings again and again. So if you're okay with that, again, you can go for that. Go for this particular course. Other two important things what we talked is the basics of Windows and knowledge, and the Linux knowledge, and the basics of SQLs. So which is like a very must thing needed. You should be aware of this. But if not, then whatever the basics Linux needed will be covered along with this course. And as I told, if anyone are totally new and they need some guidance on this basics on Windows and Linux, probably I can take some extra sessions on the weekends, Saturday or Sunday, and I can guide you through that one or two sessions or few sessions because you know, learning the Linux things is very must. And even if you go to Google and then you can search for basic Linux commands and all, you can start preparing your own notes. And even in during the course, whatever the command I am running it, you can go and search in the Google and then understand what that command is going to make it, and then take a note of your. You can start preparing your own note so that you can understand all those commands, and then you can practice all those commands in your lab, and then you can slowly you can learn those things. So again, for these two, already we have a couple of notes in our Google Drive. You can go and then self study all those basics of SQLs, basics of Linux, all will be available in our Google Drive. On top of that, if needed, I will be taking few sessions on the weekends. And again, this is subjected to your interest, so it will be suitable for who are new to this IT world or who are entering into this IT world or switching their career from some support job to this admin job. So probably those all guys can join with me, and then I can taking few sessions on the weekends. Right, and then who can attend this course? Again, anyone. As I told, you are a new or switching your domain, or you already have experience in the IT, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, doesn't matter. Anyone can attend this particular course. Right, so that's all prerequisites what we discussed yesterday. And then on top of that, we started with some technical discussion around the database architecture. And then we talked about Oracle certifications. Again, I'm not going to talk about Oracle certifications because at the end of this course, we'll be talking about these Oracle certifications in details. We'll explore more on that. But for now, in a quick one-line sentence, as a DBA, what are the certificate I need to complete? There will be hundreds of certificate by Oracle. But as a DBA, there are two mandatory certificate or must certificate or most needed certificate. This 19C OCP certificate and RAC certificate. So exam codes are 1Z082 and 1Z083, 19C Admin 1 and 19C Admin 2 exam for DBAs who are working for 1 year to 4 years of experience or 5 years of experience. They have to complete this OCP certificate mandatorily, and who are working in the rack expert, like anything between 5 years to 10 years or 15 years. So they have to complete this rack certificate. The exam code is 1Z0078. The rack certification is must. So these are four core fundamental or basic certificate anyone has to complete. On top of that, there are specialization certificate like Exadata certifications, the performance tuning certificate, Golden Gate certificate, Oracle Enterprise Manager, OEM certificate. Those are like special areas, specialization in a particular field. Those are advanced certificate, but for a basic as a DBA, you need to complete these two certificate. Right. So, and then we started with this some architecture discussion. So we'll continue on those topics for now. I'll give it a pause for a minute. If anyone has any questions so far on this 8 points what we discussed. Any questions? You can feel free to unmute yourself and then ask your questions or use this chat window here. I'll be monitoring the chat window. I'll be taking up those questions. Lalita is taking, please take some Linux session. Yes, sure, definitely. As I committed, I can take few Linux sessions, and I can probably once registration is done, once the regular class starts on the weekend, I can take some session. Don't worry on that.
Hello, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, we need some basics of SQL, and as you told, please dedicate for 1 or 2 classes. So it is.
Sure, sure. I'll do that one. Don't worry, it's on me. I can take it on the weekend. All right. Okay, let's get started. In continuation to the yesterday's discussion. Again, you might be facing some difficulties or challenges in understanding all these terminologies. What is database architecture, HGA, PGA? This is all at high level what I am covering for now. And all these topics will be going to be repeated in our regular classes starting from Monday. But for now, you just be like keep watching. If you are new and you're not able to get up the things, that is true because you don't know all this definition. But at the high level, at the overview, I'm talking about these demo sessions. Right. Where we can find the demo sessions, probably I uploaded into my YouTube channel. You can go and then refer them over there. Or if anyone already have a handy about that demo link, you can demo recordings. You can post it in the chat here. Um, or else I can give it here minute here. Give me a second. All right. So let me get that one here. Okay, it's here. You can go ahead and then, all right, take refer this demo sessions yesterday's one, and today's after today's session also I'll be uploading it, and you can go ahead and then watch it that also that one also. So I pinged here in the chat. You can take a note of that, and you can watch this yesterday's demo sessions, and also today's demo session also will be uploading it after the session. And if you missed it, you can watch that as well. Right. What we talked yesterday. We talked about database architecture. Why we talked about database architecture? Because in most of the interview questions, these are the common questions you will be asked. And these are the common questions for sure you'll be getting it in any of the interview. So a couple of questions I mentioned here. Can you brief about database architecture? Can you explain about database architecture? What is a database instance? What is database? What is data files? What is SGA? What is PGA? What is SMON, PMON, DBRater, LogRater, checkpointer? What is data files? What is control file? What is read log files? What is password file? What is alert log file? What is trace file? All these questions are common, and there will be a lot more questions around the architecture. So definitely you'll be getting bunch of questions around that. And as a DBA, understanding the database architecture is important things. And even in the midnight while you are sleeping, if somebody wake you up and ask what is database architecture, you should be able to answer, and you should be able to explain the entire architecture. That strong should be your foundation. Once you complete in and out about architecture, then you should be able to handle any kind of issues or any kind of a support. You should be able to handle it in as a DBA for any customer or any client. So for that, we started with a high level of overview, brief understanding of database architecture. Oracle database server is nothing but we can call it as the Oracle database architect. So Oracle database, some people will say Oracle database server or Oracle database architecture. It's one and same. It's the entire server, the Linux server where you install your database. So what we shown, give me 1 second, guys. All right, guys. Sorry for that, guys. Uh, what we talked yesterday, let's say you have Linux server, and in that Linux server, you are going to install your instance. I'll just type it as an instance I, and that instance will be having a memory component, and then that will be having your background process. But that is the instance architecture, and then underlying that instance will be having a database. So I'll just type it as a database D. So this database is nothing but all these data files, the end user data. So that's a typical entire database architecture. If somebody asked you to explain about database architecture or database server is a combination of instance and database. Instance is a logical structure. As you can see, instance is a logical structure which is made up of memory and background process. What we discussed here, memory and background process combining together will be forming my instance. That's a logical structure. Database is a physical structure or the data files or the end user data which are physically stored on your server. And these are your logical structure. Logical structure is like your memory, RAM, and your processors. So you cannot see them. You cannot see the physical files. The physical structures, your physical files are the data files, what you can see it on the server. That's where we call it as a logical structure for the instance. And database is a physical structure, your end user data. So I already showed you in one of my lab. So if I go to that lab again here, right here. So one of my DevDB database, a PS-EF grep, a DevDB. The DevDB is a database instance. This is I'm talking about this database instance. This database instance has a bunch of background process here. So if I do process, PS is a process list. What are the processes are running for this DevDB? So there will be a lot of processes are running here. So that is my a definition what we talked here. So my instance is a combination of memory and background process. And in the background process, I have this mandatory background process and non-mandatory background process. Mandatory background process are your SMON, PMON, debrighter, logwriter, checkpointer. Non-mandatory background process are your archiver, recoverer, job queue, MON, MNLL. There are so many other background processes. So what we seen here, a PMON mandatory background process and debrighter mandatory background process, logwriter mandatory background process, a checkpointer mandatory background process, and SMON mandatory background process. Apart from that, whatever the other process are non-mandatory background process. So those are your part of instance, this background process, mandatory and non-mandatory. So and then other component for your instance is a memory. Memory is again divided into HGA and PGA. The memory is again part of your instance architecture, and that memory is combination of your SGA and PGA. So SGA is your system global area or shared global area. And inside SGA again, we'll be having so many subcomponent: shared pool, large pool, Java pool, database buffer cache, redo buffer cache, stream pool, part of your SGA. And PGA again memory component, which is a program global area, private global area, which are again having so many subcomponent: stack space, bit tree, bitmap in bitmap area, temp area, sort area, so many other memory component. So those are your memory component. So if I connect to my database instance at DevDB
Hi,
using
sir.
this,
I have a doubt.
give me a second, I'll take the question.
Okay.
Right. So if I connect and if I check those memory components, show parameter HGA underscore target. So this is my SGA memory, what I set. A 3 GB SGA memory, I set it for this particular database. Show show parameter PG underscore target or PG underscore aggregate or just do PGA. So PGA, sorry, PGA. So we have a 2 GB PGA. So again, yesterday also we talked, what is this memory? Somebody asked about RAM. Yes, that's correct. Whatever the server has a memory, if I do free hyphen G, so this particular free hyphen G, so this particular server, again, these are the commands who are new to this, admin classes or who are entering into this IT world. This command maybe feels you that what command it is. So you have to search in Google what is this free command in Linux. and I'm going to tell you what exactly this free command is. So to check the memory on this particular server, we're going to use this free command in terms of GB. So this server has total 11 GB. Out of that 11 GB, what I did, I assigned 2 GB for a PGA and assigned 3 GB for my SGA. 3 plus 2, 5 GB. So I used 5 GB for this particular server, and remaining 6 GB I'm using it for my server operations. So likewise, my database needs more memory. I can go and then increase this SGA and PGA settings. I can make this SGA to 5 GB and I can make this PGA to 2 GB or 3 GB. 5 GB plus 3 GB, 8 GB. Still I have that 11 GB server memory. So until that I can completely utilize my server memory, I can keep on increasing my SGA and PGA settings. And that basically comes from your server memory. That's a simple understanding, no hard and fast rule. A memory is nothing but a memory whatever assigned from the server, taking some part of the memory and then assigning to your database. And right now you assigned a memory SGA and PGA. So in the part of this instance, the memory component will be having SGA and PGA. For that, this particular Linux server has 11 GB memory RAM. Out of that, you assigned SGA 3 GB and PGA 2 GB. So with this 3 GB and 2 GB, let's say my database is able to handle 1000 users. 1000 users can able to connect to my database and they can able to do their transactions. Over a period of time, my database or my application becomes so popular, and the users who are connecting to my database become doubled. It become 2000. So then my database will be not functioning properly. That time we can go and then increase this memory component. So I can make SGA this whatever 3 GB to double, 6 GB I can make it, and whatever my PGA, which is 2 GB, I can double it, make it to 4 GB. Again, 6 GB plus 4 GB become 10 GB. Still, I can survive this database because my server has 11 GB. So over a period of time, again my database become my server application become so popular. More and more users started coming, and now 3,000 users are coming. Then I'm unable to increase my SG and PJ because we already maxed out. We already used entire server memory. So I don't have any other free memory in my server to increase that database memory. So then I asked Linux admin, can you increase the server memory? Linux admin will increase the server memory to 20 GB. So once you increase the server memory, then again I can go ahead and increase my HG and PGA. So basically, fundamental understanding, whatever memory we are allocating for my database, it's all coming from your server memory. So make sure that you have enough memory in the server side so that you can adequately assign to your database as and when there's a need. Right. That's your instance. A memory and background process both together will form this logical structure. That's an instance. And any user wanted to do any transaction, he is going to connect to this instance. Via that instance, he will perform that transactions. If you want to insert any record, you want to read any record, you want to modify any record, or you want to delete any record, whatever data he created, do any operation on that data, he has to connect to this logical structure instance. Via instance, only they can able to access this data or the end user data or the database, which will be formed in the form of tables. So that is your database. Database is nothing but physical structure or the data files or the end user data will be stored physically on the your storage side. So already I showed in yesterday's session also. If you go to that user own app, Oracle, Data and DevDB database and data files. So all these are your physical files or the database. Any end user who are doing any transaction or any query, all these are same query or transactions or SQLs or any modification, insert, update, delete, whatever the transactions, all are one and same. So if you want to do anything on this particular data which is stored under this database, the physical files, he has to do it via instance only. So that is your actual physical structure. Your database is a physical structure or the data files or the end user data. So those will be made up of your data files. There will be multiple data files. Right now, these are the 5 data files you can see for the end users or for the any client, or if you're working for any customer, you might see number of data files are 1000, 2000, 10,000. based upon your database size. If your database huge, it will be keep on adding more and more data files. So the data files depends upon your database size, right? So now all these data files you can see physically by going to this particular location, or you can query it inside your instance. So if I go back to my instance again, I'm going to use this SQL plus SSDBA to connect to my database instance, DB instance. Once I connect, I can say select name from VDollar data file. So I can run this data files. What are the data files are available for my database? I can query it. Then I can go to this particular location and then I can see all those data files. That is one way how I can check my database. So I can come to that point little later. But for now, how to connect? Look, as a DBA or any end user, we never ever connect to database. Database is a physical files. Nobody can able to read and write and understand those data files or the storage files. How can I read and write and understand the data? By connecting to instance. As a DBA or any end user, all will be connecting to instance, which is logical structure. Why instance? We operate that data files. We operate on that particular database. Right? If I have these data files, whatever I showed here physically, as a DBA, I cannot do anything here. As an end user who are connecting to my database, they cannot do anything on these data files. Only these data files my instance can understand, database instance can understand. Because of that, any operations you want to do at your database, you have to first connect to this instance. So then how to connect to instance as a DBA or as a application user? There are two ways to connect. As a DBA, how a DBA can connect to database instance. As application user, how the application user can connect to database. So as a DBA, what I'll do, I will run this ps-ef grep smon and I'll see, okay, my DB instance, database instance, which is running with this Oracle user. So then I will switch user, SUV switch user to Oracle because this particular DB instance is running with this Oracle user. I will log into this Oracle user and then I will run this .orinv. That is the Oracle environmental variable. It's going to ask me what is Oracle SID, the instance ID. So DB is my instance ID. Once I set that one, I can use simple command SQL plus /s sysdba. The moment I fire this one, I'm into this SQL command prompt. SQL command prompt means you have connected to this instance, connected to this Oracle Database Enterprise Edition, and into this SQL command prompt. So you are connected to this one. Now I can say select instance underscore name from $, instance. So DB is my instance name. Whatever this instance has its own name, instance name. And then that particular instance is connected to that database, the physical files. Select name from $, database. So my database name is DB. My instance name is DB. Both are same. It's always one-to-one mapping. You have one database associated to one instance. So if you have one more database instance and you can create one more database there like test db and test db instance and prod db and prod db instance and uatdb and uatdb instance in a server, you can install n number of databases, n number of instances, provided you should have that much of memory. As I told here, my server, this particular server here, Oracle Lab 1 server, has 11 GB memory. Out of that 11 GB, I already used the 3 GB and 2 GB. 5 GB I used, and I have left it another 6 GB. I can go ahead and create one more database, and I can assign another 5 GB. Right? So in a server, you can create n number of databases, provided you should have enough resource on that server. Right, so makes sense now. As a DBA, I can set this environmental variables. I can run this simple command to connect to my database instance, and I can query anything inside my database. Right, that will be as a DBA. So I'll log into that particular owner and I'll run this .orinv and I'll set that SID, whatever the SID it has, and I can use SQL plus slash s set DBA. That's it. So that's a DBA, simple thing for DBA, how we can connect and we can manage my database and database instance. As application user, how can application user can connect? As I told, between this database server, there will be application server here. In yesterday's session, I might have told this application server. Let's say this particular database is ICICI Bank, or let's say HDFC Bank, or any bank. I'm just giving example of Indian banks here, ICICI and HDFC. So this is application server. So Malik, I'm a user. I have my account in ICICI Bank. So I'll be getting my user ID and I'll be getting my password. So I'll go to the www.icici.com, or I can use that ICICI app in my mobile and I can log in with my Malik user and my password. My connection will go to this application server. So this username and password is application username and password. Why this application username and my connection will go to this database instance. So for the end users or the application users, will not be connecting to the database instance directly. We'll be using our username and password at the application side. These Malik user and Malik password belongs to application server. Once I connect to Malik user and Malik password to that application, via that application, I'll be connected to my database instance and then I can query any transactions. So for the end user don't know anything. For the end user, if the end user gets like this particular SQL prompt, what he can do with that? End user will be all GUI mode. So I can go to my account section, I can go to my transaction history, I can go to payment transfer, I can make a payment, I can deposit the money. So all will be end user GUI based. So whatever the end user is doing on the UI, all will be at the back end. At the application side will be converted as a SQL queries and then will be executed in the database instance. Once he executed at the database instance, will be stored under my database, whatever the transaction. So that is for the end users, this backend database storage is irrelevant. So with that, what we understood for the end user point of view, there will be a three layer. Layer one, the end users, the UI, web browser, and the second one is your application tier, and the third one is your backend tier. That's a three-tier architecture, what we can say in any IT standards. So for that, we have this particular right here. So we have this three-layer architecture here, the layer one and the layer two and the layer three. That's a three-tier architecture. Any application or any industry best standard practice will be having this three-layer architecture. The front end or the client or web or mobile or the presentation layer. You can call it as any layer here, any name for the first layer. The client can use the browser to connect to that application, or he can use the mobile application, or he can use the desktop application, and he can access with that username and password. All those connection will go to that application server. So that application server, you can call it as a middle tier, middleware, Apache, or web server. And again, these two are out of DBA scope. We never worry about these two, first layer and second layer. What's in the DBA scope? It's a third layer. It's a backend. So that called backend or database tier or data management tier or the backend tier. So we work as a DBA, we work here. So we'll be having this Linux server. That Linux server will be having this database instance, and that database instance will be mapped to a particular database, a DevDB and DevDB. Again, you can have whatever name you want it. Ideally, it will be 99% same name will be having instance name and database name will be same. Like what we saw here, a DevDB as the instance name and DevDB as a database name, both are remain same. Same thing we can have it here. So whatever we work in this backend layer 3. Right. So any questions here? I'll take a pause here. And any questions so far?
Yeah, Malik, I have one question. So, for database, we have data files. Now,
Right.
how much size those data file can take?
That's
How, what?
again that's again internal to architecture. There will be a limit of 32 GB and there's a limit of 32 terabyte based upon your configuration. So that's a different story that we can cover it in our actual classes.
Okay,
For answer to your question, no limit.
Yeah,
okay,
sir.
okay.
Yeah,
So,
so here
while
memory.
creating the database, we cannot give any database size, right?
No,
But for other database, like for example, Teradata, we can give size as palm space is equal to, let's say, 1 GB or 2 GB. These kind of things we cannot assign here.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir, here memory refers RAM only, sir.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Hi, sir.
Yep.
Is
Go ahead.
process ID change or it will be constant?
Process ID, it depends. It
Means it
may
depends.
change or it may not change. Some
May
process
change.
IDs will be constant and some process
Okay.
ID will be keep changing.
For example, S1 is a
Yeah, it's a
permanent, no?
constant. It's a
It's
constant.
constant.
Right.
If we kill it, what happened? If we not,
Again,
if we
that's the name itself suggests. If you
okay,
go back, what I mentioned,
what?
let's go back here.
Okay.
So what I mentioned, the process IDs, the
Yes.
background process, mandatory background process, name itself suggests mandatory,
Okay.
meaning that process has to be needed, must. If somebody kills, your entire instance will go down.
Okay. One more doubt, sir. You have on dev instance, no? Dev
Right.
DB instance. Is there any way if we ps hyphen ef grep hyphen dev instance means there also we get process IDs or not?
Yes, that's what we did here, right? So
One second. I
if you see
didn't.
here, ps-f grep devdb, I
Yes.
got all the process IDs.
Yes. Is that change or not?
So
Means
whatever the mandatory will be
no.
forever.
Okay.
They'll never get changed.
Okay. This for
Whatever this
mandatory, no?
non-mandatory,
Okay.
they'll be keep changing.
Okay.
Why it
Is-
is
Okay.
constant? Because once you
Mm,
start it, it's a permanent process. If you kill this one, your instance
okay.
itself crash and you
Okay.
have to restart your instance again.
Okay, again we restart means that whatever data, previous data will come back or not.
That's a different story,
That's the difference.
right? That's internal. You have to understand how instance crash, the
Okay.
recovery works.
Okay. Going forward sections, we know it or not.
Yes, we'll know that one. Again, that is too early to answer you. Like most of them are don't know how.
Okay.
That's the job of your SMON. What's the
Okay.
job of your SMON? SMON stands for system monitor.
System
SMON
monitors.
will take care of that any crash. If your instance get crashed, your SMON will do that recovery. Any data you done, any transaction, if it's a
Okay.
committed, all the data will come back. If it's not committed, then it will never come back. It will be data loss. So that's the job of your SMON. Again, one of your mandatory interview questions. What is SMON? What job it want to do?
Okay.
Answer to your
Oh,
question is SMON will want to
okay.
do that.
If it's not committed, what we need to do, sir?
Not committed means not guaranteed.
Not guarantee. Is there any other process we get data back or not?
No.
No.
Again, that's your fundamental understanding. If you are doing any transaction, you want to
Okay.
save or not.
Yeah, we already saved it. Okay.
If you saved it, it's a permanent, it's a committed data. If it is saved, meaning it's a committed data.
Yeah, we are going to kill committed data only. No. S1 is a committed. No.
Wait a minute. End user, whatever is doing the transaction, like say Malik user connected to application server. Once he connected, he will be connecting to instance. Once he connected to instance, he will be doing some transaction. He may be doing some insert or he may be doing some delete. He may be doing some update. Any transaction he do, he has a control whether to save that data or not in the application side. If he save the data, that will be saved forever, permanently. If he is not saved, that's called uncommitted data. Those are not guaranteed. Nothing is in the DBA hand. It's all on the application user how he's doing the transaction. And there will be hundreds or thousands of transactions will be happening in my database, meaning thousands of users are connected to my database via application. And out of those thousands of users, maybe 500 users are did some transaction and they committed it. Meaning the committed meaning they saved the data, whatever transaction they done. That's the guaranteed data. Even if you crash your database, crash your instance, that data will be guaranteed and that data will come back. Whatever the remaining 500 users who are done their transaction, they are not saved it in the application end. If they're not saved it, that's called uncommitted data. That is not guaranteed. Who is going to make sure that committed data will be comes back and uncommitted data will be deleted forever? That's the job of your SMON. SMON will make sure that whatever the committed data will be comes back, even though if you crash the instance. Again, that's the internal. It's too early to talk now. In our regular classes, we'll talk about that, how the committed and uncommitted data works. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Now go back here. So couple of understanding across around this. Just correlate whatever I just talked, just correlate with our simple human layman term analogy. Meaning, let's say a human has a brain, that's a memory, and human has this a pair of hands. Let's say if somebody comes to him and say, okay, can you save this address? Like, I'm a human, like one of my friend will come and he will do some update to me, like, can you save this particular address? We are going to this trip and this is the location, this is the hotel we are staying there. So what I'll do, I will remember that a particular address or whatever the instruction I'll getting from my friend, I'll be keep remembering that in my mind. So since a memory is short term, like I cannot keep more and more data in the memory, what I'll do, I will start writing that instruction to notebook. And then once this particular notebook is full, I'll keep it and I'll get a new notebook. Likewise, like, after a day or after a week, the same user will come back and same one, my friend will come back. Do you remember that the trip, the address I told you? He will ask me. If I remember that one in my memory, I can answer that back. Okay, this is the address you gave me. You told me another day. I can give it back to him from the memory itself directly. That will be a faster one because I remember that address. I can tell him back that address. If I don't remember, it is not in my memory. Then what I'll do, I'll go back to that books and I'll see where I saved that address. I will open that book and I'll get that address back to my memory and then I'll give it back to that end user. The same thing, what our day-to-day human life, how we operate, my database also operate in the same manner. So this is my Linux server. In the Linux server, I created this database instance, DevDB, and then it has this DevDB database, all the data files. So the end user came here. Let's say user one. He created a table called employee table, and then he added some record, employee ID, employee name, and employee salary. And then he added some record, employee ID 1, employee name A, salary 1000. That's a user one who connected to my database instance. He did some transaction. He created a table, employee table, and he inserted that record 1, employee ID 1. So the moment the end user he do transaction, whatever this employee table and this data will be stored under this memory here. And then this database instance will tell him back, boss, your data is saved. Like how I remember that address in my mind, the data will be returned to this memory here. Remember that SGA plus PGA. With the help of this memory, I'll save the data here in the memory. Right? So whatever in the memory, it's a volatile. We can easily forget it. Right? So because of that, I started writing it notebook. So with help of my hands. Same thing, whatever data is stored in this memory here, instance memory, with help of this background process, I'll start writing into these data files. right? Remember, data files is a physical storage, a physical files in your server, which will be never be get deleted or erased. Those are physical files. Who is going to write that memory? Whatever the data in the memory to data file, this background process. Whatever the mandatory background process I talked here, a DB writer is going to do that one. DB writer is going to take that data from the memory right into your data files. Fair enough. And then let's say user 2 comes. He's going to do select employee table where employee ID equal to 1. That user 2 comes to my database server, database instance. He'll say, what is that employee ID 1 salary? Select star from employee where employee ID equal to 1. What's the salary? He's going to write some query. So already data in the memory here. I can give it back to you. Employee ID 1 has a salary $1,000. Let's say over a period of time, whatever there in the memory is got erased. Now the data is not there in the memory. Like how that human I may forget the things. It may get erased from my memory over a period of time. Now the memory empty. We don't have data. Data is there in this actual data files. What? How can I get that record then? So how I did here as a human analogy, if I don't have it in my mind, I'll go back to the data files and then I can open the book. I can find it out where is that address and then I can get it back to my memory and then give to that user. Same way here also I'll go to a data files, whatever that employee table, I'll get back to memory and then I'll give it back to that end user. Right? It's the same analogy. Whatever our day-to-day life, how we work, my database also operate in the same manner. A memory and the background process and the data files. So with comparison of here, whatever we are storing it in the book, is there any limit for number of data files? Is there any limit for number of books? I can write as many as I want. Likewise, there's no limit number of data files. So default, a database will be having a limit of 1024 data file. A data file can have these many data files, but you can increase that number by recreating control file and some other strategy is there. Default, if somebody asked what is the number of data files a database can have, the default limit is 10024. But you can override that. You can increase that number of data files. You can make it 2000, 3000, 10,000, doesn't matter. Nobody can stop you. Like how human can write multiple hundreds of books, you can keep writing it. Is there any limit for size of each data files? Like ideally 32 GB is the default limit, and but still you can override that limit. Like how wise I can have whatever the book size I wanted, 10 pages, 100 pages, 1000 pages. Likewise, is there any limit? So default limit is 32 GB, but you can override that. You can make it your own size, 10 GB, 20 GB, 30 GB, 100 GB, 1 TB, 2 TB, 3 TB. You can override that. That's a custom config you can do it. But these are the default limit I'm talking about. 10.02 file is max number of data files each database can have. Each data file or each book size is 32 GB max size, but that's a customizable. You can override that. Is there any limit for the size of the database? Entire size of the database. Like you have 100 books, and combination of all those 100 books is your entire database size. I can have 100 books, and then each of those books are various in size. And answer to this question is no. There's no limit for my database. I can grow my database as much as I can. Right? That's a simple correlation how we can compare that day-to-day life into my database strategy. Right? Any questions so far? All right.
Malik, can it happen that the disk space is completely filled and we cannot increase the number
Right.
of data files? This kind
That's
of problem.
right. That's there. So again, whatever the books you are going to keep it in your shelf. If you don't have a self is full, then you need to buy a new shelf. And whatever these data files, you're going to store it in the storage. On the OS side, if you don't have storage, you're going to engage your Linux admin and ask him to add a new storage.
Mm-hmm.
Same process.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right. Now let's quickly talk about, if we are clear on this one, let's talk about one more concept. Your standalone versus rack. So again, why standalone and rack? As we know, a standalone is a DBA, and rack is a, you know, as a DBA, like if you are having like 1 to 5 years of experience, you should learn this database course. And rack, we have this rack course. So if you are anything above 5+ years, you should learn this rack course, because these are the two offerings. Most of the customer, let's say hardly around a 20% or less than 20% databases are standalone, a single instance, and remaining 80% of the production workloads are in rack, real application cluster. So what is the difference between standalone and rack? Again, standalone is a junior DBA, and we have this DBA course. What we are studying is the standalone, a DBA course, and we have a separate course rack, which is a real application cluster. So what's the difference between the in the industry? You can see hardly 20% are standalone production servers, and whatever the 80% is a rack, real application cluster. Meaning, let's say you have this database, DevDB, which is mapped with this DevDB instance and running under this Linux server 1. Let's say if your server crashes, or let's say your database instance crashes, and nobody can able to access this database. It's a complete database downtime, application downtime, your business downtime. So how to avoid this downtime? We have this rack concept. So whatever this database, we have it here, DevDB. We have this Linux server 1, Linux server 2, Linux server 3, multiple Linux servers. And you can start your DevDB instance 1, DevDB instance 2, DevDB instance 3, multiple database instances. All can connect to your data, which is saved in the shared storage. Let's say right now this standalone database, let's say 1,000 users are connecting. Let's say 300 users are here, 300 users are here, and 400 users are here. 1,000 users are connecting, all are going to application server. All those 1,000 users are connecting to single instance, a single server. Your database is able to handle it. Now the 1,000 users become 2,000, and your database will crash. Your instance will crash. Your server will crash if the users become more and more. Then we need to increase that SGA, PGA, we need to increase that Linux memory and all, if the more and more users are connecting to my database. But whereas in case of rack, you don't need to worry. We have this multiple database instance. Let's say 1,000 users are connecting. Let's say 300, 300, 400 users here. All will go here. And then let's say 300 connected to instance 1, 300 connected to instance 2, 400 users are connected to instance 1. So your number of users who are connecting, it will be distributed across multiple servers, and there's no way that your instance will get crash. And if the instance, the number of user 1,000 got increased to 2,000, then again 300 more users will go here, 300 more users will go here, 400 more users will go here, and your database is continue to function, your business is continue to function. That's a rack future. So learning rack is very much thing. If you are growing and if you are having a more and more experience, we need to explore rack and then learn the rack concepts. That's a must. Around 80% of production databases are rack in the real-time world.
Malik, I have a question. You have said like there is a PGA, right? So
Right.
PGA target limit. So each user have that. For example, if the PGA target limit is 1 GB, so each user can have the 1 GB of memory. So
No,
for example, 10 user means 10 GB they can use, or combinedly they can use only 1 GB.
there's a different story on that. So
Okay.
SGA is shared, PGA is a private. Each user can have that memory, and SGA is a single.
Yeah, yes, Malik. For example, I'm telling if the
No, no,
aggregate
yeah,
value is
1,000 users, all the 1,000 users has its own PGA. If you set it to 2 GB, all the 1,000 users can have 2 GB PGA.
so it will exist
That's a different story how it works. So any user session cannot run more than 3 MB, 4 MB. The user cannot go for 1 GB, 2 GB. That's a user session will take just a 3 MB. He's doing just a transactions. That those transactions will not take more than few MBs. Again, in your real, in theoretical understanding, your server memory will get exhausted. Yes, that's correct. But it never happened.
is there any parameter to control the combined PGA of all the users?
No, it's a user
So,
specific. The PGA
so
stands
my,
for private global area. Each user specific, that is.
so my understanding is if the PGA target is 1 GB, each user can use the whole 1 GB,
Right.
and if there are 10 users, they can use till 10 GB of PGA from the
Yeah,
server.
right. That's correct. Call it.
Malik, one more question here. So you told about instances crashes, then from I1 to I2, there will be some kind of switchover in case of rack. But in case the database gets crashed, then what will happen?
This is a complete downtime.
Complete downtime. Like
Right.
anywhere we have stored the database, we need to recover it, right? That's
Right.
one.
Right. That's your disk failure. Like, your disk got failed. Your disk got failed. Whether it's a rack or standalone, doesn't matter. It's a complete downtime.
Okay, okay. And Malik, when we talk about accelerator, that is also a kind of disk or storage.
Right. That's
Okay.
correct. Right. So here the rack, what we see in whatever that end users is distributed on all the nodes. The load balancing, we call it as a load balancing. The end users who are connecting evenly getting distributed to all the nodes, all the servers. So that load distribution is one major feature. Let's say this 300 plus 300, 600 users are connected here. So the moment the instance crash or the server crash due to some issue, some OS issue or some any issue, the server crash, all these 600 users automatically 300 users will go here and 300 users will go here. So that is called your failover. That's the second feature in rack. Any instance crashes or any database instance or any database server crashes, the all the connected users will automatically go to your available instances. That's called failover. Here in the standalone, there is no load balancing because only one server, always that server will be overloaded. And if there is an instance crash, there is no failover. To fail over all those 1,000 users connected, we don't have any other instance. The failover feature is not possible. The load balancing is not possible in case of your standalone. But in case of rack, those are your major advantages or the major feature. Your load balancing and your failover. And there's a one more feature, HA, high availability. What is that high availability? If one server crashed, any end users are connecting, we have two more server to connect. HA, high availability. One server is there, no worries. We have other server to connect to that end user connections, handle those end user connections. If this standalone one single instance which is crashed and any new user trying to connect, there's no way to route those connections. That's not there. So those are your a major feature when you compare a standalone versus rack. HA, high availability, and load balancing, and your failover. So those features we don't have it in the standalone, and because of that, very a few less customers, hardly 20% of your production workload are in the standalone when you do a market survey. And most of the customers who are in the production, they are already in the rack. Around 80% of customers you can see rack. So it's a mandatory for any DBA after certain years, like more than 4 or 5 years of experience you have it. It's a must thing you have to learn this rack. So that's why I told in the beginning we have these two separate certifications, 19C admin one and the rack right here. These are certifications. So as a DBA, if you're working, you have to complete this standalone. What will be covering this standalone? And rack is a separate course where you have to expand your knowledge after certain years, maybe more than 5 or plus. Then you need to time to switch and time to learn the rack. If you don't know the rack, let's say I have 8 years of experience, I know only the standalone database, then you won't get any opportunities. You won't get any interview calls if you don't know the rack. Right? It's a time for you to learn the rack once you have more and more experience. Right. Those are the two types of, now that leads to types of databases. So what we just understood, a standalone and rack. These are the two types of databases. If somebody asked what are the types of databases, standalone, that's a single instance and single database. Rack, multiple instances and a single database. Why rack? Because of those features, high availability, load balancing and failover. So in the standalone, we have two flavors. Standalone with ASM, standalone without ASM. And in case of rack, again we have it rack database, rack one node database. So typically two types of database, standalone and rack. And in the standalone, you can subdivide into standalone with ASM and standalone without ASM. Database is, or database, or you can call data file residing on ASM. Database or data file residing under OS storage. Right? What is this data files? Data file, as I told, right? The underlying database, the end user data. So where you're going to store the data files? You're going to store the data files on ASM storage. You're going to store the data file on OS storage. That makes your standalone database different with ASM and without ASM. What is this ASM? Automatic storage management provided by Oracle. We have a separate chapter for ASM as well in this course. Where is that? Okay, here, chapter number 9, ASM architecture, ASM overview. ASM is nothing but a storage provided by Oracle. So you're gonna store your database in ASM or you're gonna store your database in ASM in OS storage. So whatever I showed here, this particular DB database, your database is residing under OS like /U01, the OS file system. Under OS storage, you are storing your all the databases, all the data files. That's your second type of database here, what you're seeing. And then we have the other server here, PS-F grep SMON. I have this ASM prod. So if I go here, or I can make split window, Oracle Lab 1, Oracle ASM here. Right? If I come out of this, So PS-F grep SMON. So I have this DB database, which is running under your OS file system. Or I can make this as a first ASM. And then this one I can make it as a Oracle Lab. So your database, ASM prod database, running under your ASM storage. And here is a DB. You don't see that ASM instance, meaning your DB is running under your OS file system. So I will log into that Oracle user. I'll log into Oracle user here. I'll set that env devdb. I'll run this SQL plus slash sysdba. So here also I'll run that .env. I'll set the environment to ASM. I'll run SQL plus slash sysdba. So I run this select name from where is my data files? $, data file. So whatever I'm seeing here, plus data, anything start with the plus, that's your ASM. This storage is provided by ASM. And if I run the same query here, select name from data file on this database, devdb, it is running with a dot slash. Slash is your OS file system. DevDB is residing under this OS file system, and your ASM prod database is running under plus data. That's your ASM storage. Again, somebody asked here a couple of questions. What is standalone? I already explained standalone meaning single database and single instance. And somebody asked about ASM. ASM I already told it's a storage provided by Oracle. I want to keep my database in ASM, not on the OS storage. And there one more questions. What is the benefit of ASM? So what's the benefit of ASM? Simple definition, simple answer. Let's say here a ps-ef grep smon and ps-ef grep smon. So we told smon is a mandatory background process. It has to be up and running in order to your database instance to up and running. So let's say this is the midnight in India time here. Let's assume it's a midnight and then some OS issue happened on this ORA-ASM prod, this server, some OS issue happened, and this Oracle Lab 1 server, both the servers, some OS issue happened. And whatever this some process got killed, kill -9, and this OS process got killed, and your database instance is gone, right? Only ASM gone. Here also same thing. Your OS process, the SMON, the mandatory background process got killed, or some OS issue happened, some OS got rebooted, your server got rebooted and gone here. So your database is down. Your database instance is down, right? Your database instance is down, and it never come up. Let's say imagine it's a midnight around 2:30 or 3 o'clock, 3 a.m. in the morning. The entire business is down. So you start getting application user complaint. So as a DBA, I need to get up. I need to connect back SQL plus slash as DBA. So connected to idle instance, meaning your instance is down. I'm going to do startup. I have to start my instance. Again, this is your startup sequence. We are going to talk about in our regular classes how this startup works. What are my startup sequence? We're going to allocate the memory and start the all the background process and all. And now your database instance is back online. Yes, man, your DODB is back online. So now the business is continuing to run. That's one of the drawback with the database running under OS file system. Any crash happens, it's a DBA job. He has to make sure that start that instance back using this startup command. What happened to this ASM prod? If I run it now, it started already. Who has started? ASM has started. That's one of the beauty or one of the advantages why your database has to run on ASM. ASM will make sure that if anything goes wrong with that database or database instance, it will start automatically. And that is main advantages. Because of that, with ASM, we call it as a Oracle restart server. It is again one of your common interview question. What is Oracle restart server? Nothing special. It's also standalone database, but your database is running under ASM. What are the benefits or advantages of running your database on ASM? This auto restart feature. ASM will make sure that your database instance is always up and running. And the first feature, or let's say auto restart capability and faster read and write. These are your simple definition. So any database in ASM, anything you do, any operation, read and write, SQL query execution will be much more faster if your database is running under ASM. And if your database is running under OS, your read and write to that OS disk will be slower. So always Oracle best practice or Oracle recommendation is to run your database on ASM. And then avoid your storage dependency. There's so many other features on ASM, but these are few things. Auto restart, as we just saw. I have not started that ASM database. Automatically ASM itself restarted it. And it will be faster reads and write. Any query operations executing on that database will be faster if your database is running under ASM. And avoid storage dependency, storage admin. Avoid storage admin. Let's say if you want to increase your any of this storage file system and all, you need to engage your Linux admin. But as a DBA, I can increase my data disk group file system whatever I want it. So this entire disk group, the storage will be managed by DBA itself. Everything will be under my control. If the storage is full, I can increase that storage, whatever the ASM disk group. Lot of admin activity we can do at storage level here. But whereas here, if I want to do any admin activity, I have to engage my Linux or the storage admin to increase the space or to do the health check and all those things. So those are main advantages why ASM is so important and why your production workload has to be run under ASM. And that's one of the strong suggestion by Oracle. Your database has to run under ASM. All right. Any questions on this standalone so far?
Malik, in case of ASM, when we do PSEA grep S1, we can see two S1 processes. One is connected to plus ASM and another to plus ASM prod.
Right.
So how they are different actually? What is the
That's your
difference in role?
ASM. The ASM storage is managed by that ASM instance.
Okay. Okay.
Only thing is we're going to manage that database instance. So ASM is for your ASM storage. That's the instance which will manage your ASM storage. And this is the instance
Okay.
for your database.
So if we kill that plus ASM instance, what will happen?
It'll restart automatically. ASM will automatically get restart. And once ASM starts, it'll automatically start your database.
Okay, okay. So we can kill both of them also, then also it will be restarted?
Right. Again, as I told you, even if your server reboots, automatically your ASM will start. Once the ASM start, your ASM will internally start your database instance.
Okay, okay. And Malik, Exadata is also kind of ASM only
Right.
inside or different?
Yes. All Exadata boxes with ASM.
Okay.
Correct. Go ahead next.
Hi, sir, why means as DP we always prefer to have a availability of a data, so we prefer RAC. Then why
Right.
we allowed to have this standalone database for any
Right.
client?
Again, as I told, right, your 80% of production database in rack and remaining 20% of production is in standalone. One major difference is your licensing. Rack needs a more licensing than your standalone. That's one of the reason why few customers are not migrated. And very less critical your development or your testing databases, people will run on standalone. And your UAT and prod, they will run on production. But you can see if you're working for any client, you can see both the kind of databases, standalone and rack. And your lower environment, standalone, like development and test will be always on standalone. Only your rack will be in production because rack needs more licensing cost, but not that cheaper. But standalone is like cheaper compared to rack, way cheaper than the rack.
Okay, sir. Okay, thanks.
All right. So then one more concept, rack. Again, two types of rack databases, as I just explained here, right? Multiple servers running with multiple instances, but all are underlining pointing to the same database. So I have one setup here. I can quickly show that one. Okay, here. I'll bring it over here. I'll bring it over here. I'll split into two window. Node 1, node 2. All right, what you see here? I have this node 1. And then I have this node 2. Two nodes, meaning two servers, Linux servers. On this node 1, what I'm running? I'm running this plus ASM1. On this node 2 here, what I'm running? I'm running this plus ASM2. Right, that's your ASM instance. Again, two instances. Node 1 has ASM1 and node 2 has ASM2. ASM1 and ASM2. And here prod CDB1, prod CDB2, two instance. Why two instance? Because it's a rack database. Two servers, two ASM instance, and two prod databases. So if I connect to any one database server, same thing, connect to your Oracle user because prod CDB is running with Oracle. I log in with Oracle user. Run this .env. Set this env. Now I'm going to run this simple command srvctl status database -d and my database name. It's just a prod CDB. No 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is your instances running on that server. I'm giving the database name here prod CDB. Typo status database -d. Right, it says prod CDB1 running on 1. The instance prod CDB1 running on server 1. Instance prod CDB2 running on node 2. So if I connect to second node, again same thing .env.
Sir, without sudo, we can identify any PS-grep like that.
Without sudo. What is sudo?
Well, SU means sudo only, no, sir. Sudo
SU, switch
super
Oracle.
user. Switch to you. You
Switch
super user.
user,
Yes,
not
yes.
super user, switch user. I'm at a
Switch user.
root user.
Okay.
I'm logged to Oracle user.
Yeah, in root user, we need to know
You need to
any.
connect. If you are connecting to database instance, first you need to log in with that particular owner.
Okay.
Then only you
Okay.
can able to connect. That's what my explanation here, right? You might have missed it. How DBA can connect. As a
Okay.
DBA, first we need to understand who is the owner.
Okay.
Once we understand the owner, then we should be able to connect. That's a must, mandatory thing.
My doubt means if in under root user ps-grep -i tns means it will show no what is the owner, what is that, like that.
Yeah, you can get it. You can run this ps command with any user, but you want to connect to database. First, you need to log into that particular owner.
That's what I'm asking, sir. If we first you exit and go for a
Wait a minute. What is your intention? Do you want to connect to this database instance or not? If yes, then you need to log into that particular user. If you don't want to connect to this user, then don't need to log into this one. Understand that thing. How DBA can connect? You have to must think you have to log into that owner in order to connect. If your intention is not to connect the database instance, then no need to log in. No need to use the switch user. Right? Without switching that, you'll never be able to run any queries. You'll never be able to connect to the database. That's the main thing. Understand, as a DBA, first login always with that particular owner. If it's a Oracle, is the owner who installed the database, log into that one. If it's a Vora dev, with that user you install your database instance. If it's a Vora prod, with that user you install your database. If it's a Vora UAT, with that user you install your database instance. That's a OS user. You have to first check who is the owner with which user you installed. You have to log into that particular owner to do any operations. That's a must thing. And again, you never worry about why you're switching and all because that's the owner. And without that login, you will not be able to connect your database instance. Right, same thing if I run it on the second node here in the rack, it will be the same output. And if I connect to that database and I connect it to SQL command prompt, if I connect to second node, I'll connect it to same that instance. That is instance 1 I connected here, and here instance 2 I connected here. If I do select instance underscore name from $, instance prod cdb1, if I run here, it will be prod cdb2. Whereas if I do select name from $, database, it will be prod cdb. If I run the same command in the second node, your database is remain same. Your underlying database is stayed, but your two instances are running on two servers. So any user can connect to instance 1 or instance 2, the load balancing, and they all can access the same database. And if I run select name from $, data file, so your data prod cdb, all those data files. So if I run the same command from the other instance, your database is remain same data files, but only that instance is different. One instance running under server 1, one instance are running under server 2 because of your high availability, load balancing, and the failover feature in rack. So that is your other type of database, rack database. And we have this rack one node database as well. What is the rack one node database? So I don't have the rack one node database, but I can explain here. So let's say I have this ASM instance 1 and ASM instance 2. This is my node 1 and this is my node 2. Two servers and two ASM instance. And right now we have this prod instance 1 here and prod instance 2 here. So your both the instance will be rack database and both the instance will be up and running. And both of these are referring to a single database here, prod CDB database. So likewise, we can create this rack one node database, meaning let's say rack underscore one node database, rack underscore one node database instance 1 and instance 2, and both are referring to the same rack one node database here. And this will make rack one node. What's the difference? I have instance 1, instance 2 and running under common shared storage. Again, I have instance 1 and instance 2 running under common shared storage. What's the difference between rack and rack one node? So rack is a database where both instances will be up and running, as we just saw here. As we see here, instance 1 running, instance 2 running. In case of rack one node, what happens? Only one instance will be running. Let's say rack underscore instance 1 will be running. And then your second instance will be evaluated down. In case of your rack instance 1 goes down, or your node 1 goes down, or your ASM 1 goes down, because you purposefully shut down the server, automatically your rack 2 will get activated. Rack underscore 2 will get started. So that's the advantage of rack 1 node. At any given point of time, only one instance will be up and running. All other instances will be down. So again, why we need this rack 1 node? One is licensing cost. For rack database to rack 1 node, rack 1 node has again less license than the rack database. And what feature we can get it here? The high availability. One server goes down, automatically the other server will get started automatically. So that is again licensing is a one cost. And you are running a multiple databases like a production databases as well as development or UAT databases. You can do a UAT database as a rack one node and you can use only one server, and your other server you can dedicatedly for production workloads. So likewise, to distribute the load, you can make use of this rack one node, and very less critical database, you can go for rack one node, and rack one nodes are like less a cheaper license compared to rack database. Both are having the rack feature, but the license wise rack one node is lesser than the rack. So that is other advantages where you can run the rack one node. So rack one node is same as your rack database, but name indicates only one instance will be up and running. If that instance goes down, automatically other instance will get started. All right. So I don't have
Manik, one quick question. So in case of rack one net also, if one instance goes down, we are getting another instance up and running, right?
automatically run off.
Why we will go for RAC database where both the instances are up and running? That's an overhead and extra licensing cost, right? What is the advantage?
Again, if it's running only one, it's as good as you're running only the standalone server. Where is your load balancing?
Okay, okay.
Your server will not able to handle that such a thousands or 2,000 users.
Okay.
All right. So any more questions? I would like to pause here.
Malaki.
Yeah, go ahead. Somebody has a question?
Yeah, Malik, can I create a database in multiple database in one instance?
No.
Why?
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you are talking, let's say I have instance 1, I want to run devdb, I want to run testdb, I want to run evatdb, and I want to run protdb. So that's the architecture what you're asking. Oracle will never support a multiple database with a single instance. Oracle is always one instance mapped with one database. That's the fundamental architecture what I explained so far. It's always one-to-one mapping, one instance and one database. Whereas if you're coming from some other database background, and if you take any other outside database, let's take SAP HANA, let's take IBM DB2, let's take MS SQL, let's take MongoDB, let's take PostgreSQL, let's take any other database outside. It'll be a single instance mapped to multiple databases. Let's say I have this MS SQL one instance. I can run devdb, testdb, uatdb, protdb under a single instance. I can run multiple databases. All this outside, whatever the database you can see it, all will support this single instance. Multiple database will be working under that one. With login to that one single instance, you can manage all your databases. But whereas Oracle will not be like that. A single instance will always map to a single database. That's a fundamental architecture how Oracle has came up with, and that one we continue to like do that one. And then how Oracle can align with this outside concept. I want a single instance, but I want to manage multiple databases with one single instance. How can I do that? So since Oracle has came in 7i and till 11g, there is no concept of supporting this single instance with multiple databases. And whereas with the 12c onwards, Oracle came up with the CDB or PDB or called multi-tenant architecture. So just to fluke or just to support this kind of outside design, outside world, how other databases, what Oracle has came up with, Oracle still follow the single instance and single database concept. And within that single database, you can run multiple virtual databases. Those are called your PDBs. So this concept came in 12c called multi-tenant architecture. With one single instance, Oracle follows its own architecture that map to one single database. Within that single database, you can run multiple virtual databases. It's kind of a database, but not actual physical database, virtual database. Like you can run your all dev database, test database, UAT database, prod database as a PDBs. So answer to your question is it's supported starting from 12c via this multi-tenant architecture. But fundamental architecture remains same. One single instance, one single database mapped. But how to support that outside world support of multiple databases via this PDBs. Like we have a separate chapter on this particular course here. So we'll be learning all those multi-tenant architecture in and out, the CDBs and PDBs, how we can clone all those things. All right. Any more questions, guys? So with that, I'm gonna wrap it up for today. So far, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Malik, here I have one doubt.
Yeah.
What is the grid concept actually?
Grid is your ASM. So
Okay.
answer to your question is ASM is nothing but your grid.
Okay. If you
What
need
is
to access that ASM, do we need to switch for grid?
what switch for grid? Come again, repeat your question.
No, if we want to access ASM, do we need to switch grid?
Right. Again, it depends. Good question. Again, we'll discuss in depth. Like let's say your database is running under without ASM. That's the OS file system. In order to
Yeah.
manage these OS files, let's go back here.
Yeah.
Oracle Lab and Oracle ASM. So right now we know this is my database which is running under OS file system. In order to manage the storage, manage the data files which is under OS file system, I can directly CD into that location. I can do LSF and LTR. I can see all the data file size and location and all those. The management is very easy. So I can easily go to that particular storage. I can do it. But whereas if your database is running under this ASM storage, if I copy that path and if I try to CD, it says no such a file alert. You cannot log in that. How can I manage that data files which are under ASM? How to access that ASM storage? If it's a OS storage, it's just a CD, simple switch directory. I can go to that OS location and I can manage my databases or the storage. But if it's running with the ASM, then ASM will not allow. For that, you have a separate command. That's where I told you it has a separate chapter, ASM architecture, ASM administration. So you need to have separate commands. Like you have a ASM, you have to understand who is the ASM owner. Again, ASM owner is Oracle. Sometimes you install ASM with a grid or Oragrid. You have to log into that respective owner. Right now, in this case here, Oracle. I already logged into that Oracle user. And same process. Run that .oranv. And then set that ASM. How we do for database setup. Log into that owner, ST Oracle. .oranv. Set the AS database instance or ASM instance. Now you asked me how to access that ASM storage. For that, I need to run ASM. So to access that ASM storage, we have separate tool or utility, ASM CMD. That's gonna go into your ASM command line and then do ls. I have this data, Rico and OCR. Now I got the data. So my database is running under data. I can log into the data, PWD. Now I'm into this data. So ls-l. So otherwise you can use this -p, ASMCMD -p. So ls. So I have this data. I'll go to data, ls. So now I'm inside data. So inside that I have this database. So if I go inside that, I have this these many data files. I'll go into my data files here and do ls-l. I can see all those data files. So inside your ASM command line, you can manage your ASM storage. If your data is full, you can increase that size. So that's your other advantages. What I told, avoid storage admin dependency. I can manage my own storage. I can increase that data storage whenever I need it. I no need to depend upon my storage admin. So that's a separate chapter. Again, good questions. Who is going to manage? How is going to manage? So it's all DBA job. We're going to manage and we have a separate chapter for that.
Malik, and another, I have one more question also.
Yeah.
While we are installing that software like ASMR grid, do we need to install a separate or including
Right.
with grid only? ASM also will install. How it will be?
Your simple understanding. What I told, your grid is nothing but your ASM.
Okay.
Done. That's done. So it's a one and same, meaning you're going to install only one software. If I said grid is different and ASM is different, then you're going to install two separate software.
Okay.
Right here, grid and ASM is nothing but one and same. People use called grid. Grid is nothing but your ASM.
Okay.
You're going to install only one software.
Okay.
All right.
Malik, what is the definition of cluster? We call it real application cluster. Why we are calling it a cluster?
Cluster. You go back, you forgot about Oracle. Simple layman term. What is cluster? It's a group of. Cluster meaning is a group of. Group of what?
Okay.
Group of
Group
servers.
of instance.
Yeah, instance. Instance is running on server. It's a group of servers. Is your cluster.
Okay. Okay. And Malik, is distributed database same as RAC, or RAC is a distributed database?
That's a old concept. Distributed database.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
All right. Right. Any more questions, guys, before we wrap it up and we can get started from Monday with our regular classes? With that, I'm gonna wrap it up for today. If no more questions, we'll see you on Monday and have a great weekend, guys. All right. No more questions. Then good to wrap it up. All right. All the best, guys. Let's see you on Monday with our regular classes. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Okay,
Sir,
thank you, sir.
thank you, Malik. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.